If you're unfamiliar with that, check out their Facebook page. We'll probably link it on our radio page for sure.
Yeah, I'll share that funny face on there.
Wendy Turner, everybody.
They're having way too much fun.
Totally share that. Hey, Mike. You might want to get Coltyn on your radio show too. He'd love that.
Yeah,
He'll spin some tunes. He's got some really like 50s stuff going on right now.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so all the Fallout. You know, he's such a.
I got this one. Okay.
Look at you guys. We need those for tomorrow.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, maybe we can steal them. Okay, so this is such a small crowd, and I love it because it's kind of crazy. Normally, I'm talking to like way more people, so it's kind of nice. So anyway, normally I start out with, who would rather be illegally alive than legally dead? So yeah, all your arms are raising. So that's what Coltyn said. So Coltyn is my 16-year-old now son, and he has Crohn's disease. He has severe debilitating Crohn's disease. He has rheumatoid arthritis, and he also has lupus. So when he was diagnosed when he was 11 years old, after a near drowning, he was at a Boy Scout camp, and they decided to swim out into the lake to this place where you could jump off and you know there was a slide and just kind of like this little island out there in the middle of nowhere. And there was this buoy rope that went across, and he thought, you know, like a swimming pool, that buoy rope is tight. Well, this one wasn't. And he grabbed a hold of it because he was having a hard time swimming. He's an itty bitty guy, and he honestly was just weak. He was just too small. But he grabbed it, and it was like he tripped. And you know how like when you trip and you just keep going? Well, that's what happened to him. He just kept going, and he couldn't get back up. So he technically drowned. 4 boys from Boy Scouts had to rescue him. He was at the bottom of the lake, and my son and one of his best friends jumped in after 2 other boys tried to save him, and one of them just accidentally swept his arm and grabbed him. You know, we were really, really, really lucky that he was able to get him up. So he ingested enough water to call it a drowning, but it was technically a dry drowning because he did get his head up in between and gets a really good breath. So he had some air in his lungs, so he didn't get infiltrated with water. They took him to the side of they took him to the beach. They got him out. He puked and he coughed and he was sick, and my son Skylar gave him some Skittles, and all was great. Well, we didn't find out about this until about 10 o'clock that night. That happened at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The 3 boys who saved Coltyn's life ended up getting a life-saving merit badge, which is the highest ranking honor that you can get in the Boy Scouts. And my son Skylar did not, because we weren't going to like apply for that for him. That was something that somebody else needed to do. It was his brother. You're supposed to save your brother's life. So even though the other boys got recognized with this high honor, Skylar didn't, which kind of upsets me, but you know, it is what it is. He was doing what he was supposed to do. But anyways, after all of this, Coltyn ended up getting a bacterial infection, and he got really, really sick. And we didn't know what it was. We thought it was because of the drowning. And it triggered Crohn's disease. Now, Crohn's disease is a GI issue. It's in your gut, it's in your mouth, it goes all the way down. You know, every digestive system in your body gets affected by Crohn's disease. He was weak and small and very, very sick, and now he has this trigger that we didn't know where it came from. Nobody in our family had this, and now we have to deal with Crohn's disease. I remember sitting at the mall, and the doctor called me, and I went out to the middle of the aisle at the mall and sat down on this little bench, and he explained to me what was going on with Coltyn. And that was really, really difficult for me because I didn't understand what Crohn's disease was. I didn't know what it was. And I had to get back up, go into the little store that everybody was shopping at, and tell my husband that our son has Crohn's. And I was crying. Tommy's looking at me like, what the hell is Crohn's disease? And I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. So we went home and we started researching. And it was horrible. One of these diseases that you do not want to have. It's the Mayo Clinic kind of classifies it as a walking, living cancer. It just slowly eats away at you. So we ended up going through all of the westernized medicines for this disease. Remicade and Azicol and Endicort and Buenazine and prednisone and Humira. And he ended up getting sicker and sicker. Some of it did help a little bit with the inflammation, but he never grew, he never got better. So at this last Humira, we were like, okay, we can't do this anymore. He has big lymph nodes. We thought that he had lymphoma. They diagnosed him with, what was it, Tommy? Pneumonia. And then they diagnosed him with tuberculosis. And then they wanted to diagnose him with T-cell lymphoma. All of which were not, he didn't have any of them. He might have had pneumonia just a little bit because he did have a right infiltrate in his lung. But which is the exact same thing that Glenn Fry from the Eagles died from. He was taking Humira, he ended up getting pneumonia, and he died from it. So Tommy and I just kind of looked at each other and we're like, enough is enough. What do we do? And so we took him to the Mayo Clinic, got him a last colonoscopy, tried to figure out what was going on, what we could do next. They were saying Cimzia, and then they were saying surgery. And then they said, well, or you can do alternative treatments. We're like, okay, what's alternative treatments? We knew, okay. So when Coltyn got sick in 2013, in August of 2013, we had already been thinking, what are we gonna do next? So we had already given him illegal stuff. And then we had to stop because we knew that we were gonna get in trouble. Because Illinois is a non-consumption state, and you can't even have it in your system. So if he should get tested and he should come out positive for THC, we're in trouble. Even if we came to Colorado and did it legally and then went back to the state of Illinois, it's actually illegal for him to have it in his system. We would be neglectful. So they would post in jail, like every other family that does this, even though it was working for Coltyn. So we stopped, did the colonoscopy. They said alternative treatments. That was our green light. Literally green. So we came to Colorado, and since then Coltyn's been great. He's been fantastic. He's grown and he has no inflammation, and his Crohn's disease is in complete remission. So isn't his RA, and so isn't his lupus. So cannabis is the only thing that he takes. He doesn't take chemotherapy anymore. He doesn't take any of the biologicals. He doesn't take any kind of painkillers. He takes nothing. He takes cannabis. Cannabis is what cured him from all of this craziness that was going on. A lot of people can't say that. They take other medications, and this was, Humira didn't help him. He was off Humira for 6 months before we started cannabis. Cannabis was the only thing that helped.
Sound familiar?
And the only thing out of the 3 years of westernized medicines that actually put him into remission. So cannabis is an amazing medicine, and we really appreciate Colorado and the people of Colorado for being so open to this situation, because we wouldn't be here, Coltyn wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Colorado and what they have done. So Coltyn's, and this is, I didn't want to actually tell Coltyn's story, but anyway, Coltyn's story is important, and we understand that, and that's why we do things like this, is to tell Coltyn's story and to make sure that people understand that cannabis is a medicine and it works for you. But not only that, one of the reasons why we stand up here is because we want you all to know that Coltyn's story isn't the only story out there. Yours is too. And that's why I brought up to Mike this open mic night, because we need your stories too. You have to speak up. The big stories aren't as, they're important, and I get it, and they have a lot of publicity. Coltyn's, has all this cameras in front of him all the time, and he does a lot of cool stuff. But your story is important too. Mike's story is important. Just because it was a skateboard accident doesn't mean that the next skateboarder who has an accident should go on Dilaudid. They should try cannabis too, and they may now because of your story. And that means that maybe their liver is not going to shut down on them. You could just have saved a life right there, and that's important. So every one of your stories is super, super important. I always think that cannabis is like Tylenol. You should be able to get it over the counter for anything that you need to get it for. Your headache, my daughter's teeth, your small aches and pains. Or you should be able to get it recommended by a doctor. So it's a little bit heavier for somebody like Coltyn who has a major disease. Cannabis is just like that. And it's actually safer than Tylenol. So please make sure that you're saying your story, that you're telling it on Facebook, that you're telling it to people like us, just sitting here, the whole 50 of us that are here, and that you're talking to people, that you're not preaching to the choir, that you get your stories out. That's the most important thing, is getting your story out. It's not retelling mine. I love that you guys share it, and I love that you support us. But we are a community. Cannabis is a community. And we need to be together as a community, and we need to support each other. We can't be fighting about rec and medical and no clubs and visitors and whatever. Clubs are important. Medical's important. Recreational is important. It's all important. So we all have to bond together and make sure that this moves forward in a loving, kind way. People are looking at us in Colorado. Every other state out there looks at Colorado law and says, well, we don't want to do that, and we don't want to do this, and they did this, and they did that, and blah, blah, blah. That's where we're getting all the CBD only crap. Say that again?
We have to set the example.
Exactly. We have to set the example. And you all know this. You all know it.
See,
so
I'm not the
let's
only one
bond
saying
together.
it.
Let's get this done. Colorado Springs is... it's crazy. Colorado Springs is. We are very conservative here in this community, and we need to bond together to save places like this. Because without places like this, where are we going to be able to come and hang out together and explain our situations? Nowhere, because there's not going to be any place. So this is our community. We need to save it for sure. So tell your stories.